This case is one of the most famous in modern history. It's also one of the most controversial. And even though it was supposedly all a hoax, there are still plenty of people who believe to this day that it's one of the scariest true stories ever told. It's the Amityville haunting. It all started in 1975 when a man named George Lutz and his wife Kathy moved into a house in Amityville, New York, with their 2 kids and one from his previous marriage. But they soon realized that the home had a dark secret. Within a few weeks of moving in, strange things started happening. They heard regular scratching noises in the walls, and the temperature would fluctuate wildly throughout the house. One night, George was awoken by what he described as a bone-chilling cold and an overwhelming feeling of dread. He got out of bed to investigate, and that's when he saw it, a green glowing orb coming down the hallway towards him. As the weeks went on, the paranormal activity escalated. Books and records were knocked off shelves. Doors and windows were slammed shut. And one time George was awoken in the middle of the night by the shaking of his bed. When he turned on the light, he saw the same green glowing orb from before hovering near the window. Then there was the infamous George and Kathy invited a local priest over to perform an exorcism. But as he was conducting the ritual, the room began to shake violently, and the priest was thrown across the room. When he looked over at the couple's bed, he saw the same green orb hovering above it. After this, George and Kathy decided to leave the house. They put their belongings in storage and moved into a hotel. But the paranormal activity didn't stop there. The ghosts continued to follow them, appearing in their hotel room and even interacting with their friends and family. That's when George contacted a man named Peter Coyote, who was a self-proclaimed demonologist. Coyote agreed to help George and Kathy, and he soon discovered that the haunting was being caused by the ghost of a former resident named Ronald DeFeo. Apparently, Lee Ronald had murdered his entire family in the house 15 years earlier, and because George and Kathy had bought the house for such a low price, it had been heavily discounted because the locals knew about the murders and didn't want anything to do with it. Coyote and George worked together to perform an exorcism, but it wasn't easy. As they were performing the ritual, the ghost of Ronald appeared before them and attacked. But eventually, with the help of a priest, they were able to drive the ghost out of the house and free the Lutz family from its curse. Or were they? There have been reports of paranormal activity in the house ever since, leading many to believe that the story of the Amityville haunting is one of the scariest true stories ever told. However, others argue that the whole thing was a hoax perpetrated by George and Kathy Lutz, who had financial help from a mysterious benefactor